going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. As you can see, there's two of us today. I have a very special guest today. Definitely the most special guest I've ever had on this show, and I've been doing this 2 years or so. Welcome, my high school basketball coach back in high school, Andrew DeLoya. Coach D, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jake. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the kind words.
Yeah, of course. So today we're gonna do things a little bit differently. We are going to be this is sort of an interview, not really a formal interview, kind of interview. I'm gonna be talking to Coach D about high school basketball. High school basketball now is very prevalent. You see a lot of these guys are, these high school kids are throwing these crazy dunks in high school. You see all these guys getting recruited, guys like Zion Williamson and who's LeBron's kid? Bronny James, and all these kids you see them in high school, they're already getting popular. So I thought, well, maybe we should talk about high school basketball. Who better than a very well-known high school basketball coach like Coach DeLoya? So I'm gonna start off by asking you this, Coach. So obviously you've coached at Norfolk High School for a while now. That's where you coached me. So take me through where you started your high school basketball coaching career.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jake. So, when you're a coach, your career really starts when you're a player, right? Because you're learning from all these great people who coach you, and then you're paying it forward when you get the opportunity to give back. So I want to kind of backtrack to how I got into basketball, and then talk about some of the people I learned from, and then talk about how now I'm in the position they were in to give back and to pay it forward and to apply all those life lessons. So for me, the story of my basketball career starts like this, Jake, and it's a good one. Back in the day at East Northport Junior High, okay, it used to be a junior high team consisting of 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. And every year, usually only 1 or 2 7th graders made the junior high team, because there was a talent level, a size level difference between the 8th and 9th graders. So 7th graders, it was slim pickings, only 1 or 2 guys would make it. So I had a tryout, I had a decent tryout, and there was about 5 minutes left to go in the tryout, Jake, and there was a loose ball on the ground, and I dove on the loose ball because I wanted it. I wanted to be on the team, and I dove, and I remember I kind of slid across the floor, and I overheard the coach say, he had a clipboard in his hand, and I overheard him say, "Put him on the team, he wants it."
Wow.
So the reason I tell that story, Jake, and I tell it at camps when I lecture, is because who knows, if I didn't dive on that ball, right? If I didn't go for it, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have played basketball. I wouldn't have been on the team that year. Maybe I would have gone and played ice hockey, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I wouldn't have had a chance to coach you and watch you hit a game-winning shot against Amityville at the buzzer. Life takes you on all these crazy turns, right, Jake? So I've applied that life lesson to everything that I've done from there on. And the person who put me on the team was a gentleman named Ray Waters, who was my junior high. You know Mr. Waters, right?
Yes, he was my golf coach in high school.
See how sports brings us together. You see how it's all
crazy.
Connected.
That's right. I forgot you two have known each other a while.
So think about that. Your golf coach was my junior high basketball coach when I was in 7th grade, and I'm a month away from my 50th birthday, Jake. So that's how sports connects people and keeps people together for all those years. So Mr. Waters put me on the team. He was my coach 7th, 8th, and 9th grade at the junior high. When I went up to the high school in 10th grade, he got the JV coaching job. So he was my coach in 10th grade.
Oh, wow.
And then when I played varsity basketball in 11th and 12th grade, he was the assistant coach under George Frank, okay, who was a coach at Northport for 27 years. And so Coach Waters coached me for 6 years. He was the most influential educator in my life because he kept an eye on me and taught me right from wrong and kept me on the straight and narrow and instilled discipline in me. And George Frank did the same, and so did Coach Greenblatt when I got to know him as well. So fast forward, right? Coach Waters was invited to my wedding. I graduate from college. I have never played golf. And guess who took me on the golf course for the first time?
Mr. Waters.
Takes me to West Sayville Golf Course. He hands me a set of Hogan blades. He says, "All right, this is how you're going to learn how to play. You're going to learn how to play with Hogan blades, the toughest clubs you can play with." That was in 1996. And guess which golf clubs I still play with?
The Hogan blades.
the Hogan Blades.
Wow. Not
So,
many guys have those. Wow.
So then, I also had Coach Bob Macaluso, who was my lacrosse coach at Northport, who was an excellent coach. I had Mr. Garside, who was my CYO basketball coach. And then, I spent time with Kenny Atkinson at the courts at Belrose Park. Kenny Atkinson.
Wait, the ex-coach from of the Nets?
You got it. So,
wow, it's a funny story. My
Yeah.
dad actually, I believe, went to high school with him.
He did at St. Anthony's, or
at Northport. He knows him either like his friend, my uncle and his brother was friends with him, or like he grew up with him somehow.
There's a lot of Atkinson brothers, but Kenny Atkinson played at Northport. He played at Northport. I don't know if
the assistant coach at Golden State. He used to coach the Brooklyn Nets. Him.
He Steph Curry's coach played at Northport. He left after 10th grade and he went to St. Anthony's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he got recruited. He played at the University of Richmond, but his Northport ties are very strong. The Atkinson families.
Okay, yeah.
The Atkinson families in the Hall of Fame. So I spent time with Kenny. We played men's league together. Kenny taught me a lot about the game. And then obviously my college coach, Coach Brian Streeter. And then I spent a lot of time at camp. My first real basketball camp, like real serious basketball camp, was the Villanova basketball camp under Rolly Massimino, who Jay Wright was his assistant coach at the time. Obviously, Jay Wright, and that two national titles at Villanova. Rolly won the title in '85. I went to camp that summer. And then I also went to, this is crazy, I went to the St. Dominic's, the Rick Pitino Offensive Skills Academy camp at St. Dominic's High School. Rick Pitino at the time was the coach at the University of Kentucky. And the three counselors at the camp were Rick Pitino, Billy Donovan.
Wow.
Yep. And Ralph Willard. So all guys who ended up having just Hall of Fame coaching careers. So Jake, I don't want to talk too much. I'm sure you have other questions, but when you're a coach, you learn from everyone around you. And then I've learned from coaches who I've coached against. I spend time on the phone with my good friends and colleagues in the business, and we share ideas, we brainstorm. Every game I watch, I video, I DVR, I take notes. I'm a junkie, man. I am a basketball junkie. So anyway, what else?
All right. So next, I'll ask you, what do you love most about coaching high school basketball?
Just the thrill of Well, there's a lot of stuff to love, right? But the thrill of competition, right? The actual, like the adrenaline rush that you get from the competition. But then, what really means the most to me is the relationships you build. Like, think about the relationship you and I have, right? Mm-hmm. Every time I see you, you got a big smile on your face. I get a big smile on my face. I'm like, there's Jake, man. There's my buddy Jake, yep. And it's because we have that connection, because we were on the same team, right? Mm-hmm. We shared an experience together, right? And mm-hmm. now we're connected. And so, I got a text message the other night from Luke Petrosic, who played for me in 2013.
I remember him. He came to our practices and helped out.
So listen, Luke Petrosic took a year off from basketball. He just needed some time away from it when he was in 10th grade. He played in 11th grade. He had an okay season, pretty good year. They didn't make the playoffs. His senior year, it just all kind of clicked, and we won the Long Island Championship. Oh. He gets recruited by Columbia University, one of the top 5 academic institutions in the country. By the time he graduates, he's all Ivy League, and he's been playing professional basketball ever since. He spent 3 years in the NBA G League. He spent some time in Germany, in Russia, and now he's settled in Poland. And he sent me a message the other day. Hey, coach, I got engaged to a Polish woman. Wow. I'm getting married, right? So we're still connected. We still talk. We exchange messages. You got guys like Lucas Jarrett, who went to Lafayette Division I from Northport. Matt Smith, who now is in the coaching ranks at Ithaca College. All these great guys. Pat Healy, who's now playing at Hobart.
Wow.
Pat Healy's playing at Hobart, my alma mater, right, where I played college basketball. So we were able to make that connection, and he earned his way onto their roster, and he's having a successful college career. There's so many names. Thomas Kennedy at Holy Cross. Austin Marchese played a little bit at Stevens Tech. I'm sure I'm leaving guys out. Michael Milligan played college basketball. There's so many guys that we're still connected. We always will be.
Wow, that's very cool, very cool, and it's cool for me because I know some of those names. Like Pat Gillian. I wasn't friends with him, but I know him. I think he may have had some mutual friends. I have a think back. It's cool. He's playing college basketball. People don't realize most high school athletes, they don't really get to move on and play college athletics. Like maybe if you're lucky, you can play D2 or D3. D1, there's a very, very small percentage that
Jake,
play D1.
Jake, what you just said is one of the most astute things that anyone that I've spoken to has said as it pertains to high school basketball. It's sort of like a golfer, right?
Yeah.
What is this? The stat, right? Like only 10% of all golfers shoot under 100, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So think about that. Same thing with high school basketball. Only 1%, maybe 1.5% of all high school basketball players get to advance their career and play in college.
Wow.
So that means if you line up 100 guys on the sideline of a basketball court, only 1 or 2 of them is going to get to play in college, right?
Wow.
So, and here's the other thing: people don't realize how good Division III college basketball.
Absolutely.
Is. Okay, who's the guy? I'm sorry, I'm just who's Robinson on the Heat?
Duncan Robinson from Miami Heat. Yeah. Him.
Did you know he played Division III basketball?
Really? Wow. I knew he was undrafted. That's crazy. D3. Wow.
So he spent time at Williams, Division III, right? Maybe it was Amherst. I don't know. We got to look that up. Can you look that up?
Yes, I can. So let's see.
I don't remember. It was one of the. I think it was Williams. It's one of the top Division III schools, and then he transferred, I believe, to Michigan.
Duncan Robinson. Let's see. Let's go to his page. If I can find it. Here it is. Duncan Robinson. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see. He played high school, Governor's Academy in Newberry. He was at Williams from 2013. He was at Williams from 2013 to 2014, then Michigan from 15 to 18, and he was an undrafted guy in 2018. He signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2018, and now he's been in the finals twice.
Oh, all right. Let's just think about that for a second. So he plays high school basketball, and not one, he didn't get out. It doesn't appear like he got a Division I offer from a school that was, that he was interested in. Maybe he got an offer and he chose to go to Williams for the academics. I don't know. But think about that. Division III and now NBA finals.
Further.
So sometimes what happens is when we're having conversations with student athletes, they hear Division III and they think it's a failure, when in reality, if you called it by a color, if you said, okay, you're going to the orange division, people are, oh, cool, I'm playing college basketball. The difference between Division III and Division I is about 3 or 4 inches across the board and probably a half second in the 40-yard dash. The execution, the coaching, even the skill level to a certain degree is probably equivalent. It's just the athleticism of a Division I athlete is superior. So if you're lucky enough to advance your career and get to play in college at any level, you're a success story. And even if you don't, even if you go on and you're a good player and you get to play in men's leagues, or you get to play rec ball, or you get to play on your corporate team, and you get to, like right now, Jake, you could go to any court right now, right? And if there was 9 people there, you could say, hey, you guys want to play 5-on-5?
Yeah.
And guess what? You're still a baller, right?
Yeah.
I played up until about 5 years ago. Sometimes I would play 6 days a week. Sometimes I'd play on 2 teams in the same night.
Wow.
And, my body's starting to fail me a little bit. My back, my knees, but just the thrill and the workout I got when I was in my late 30s, early 40s, it was unlike anything else. It's much better than being on a treadmill. So, which I could probably use a little bit of right now. So anyway, what else?
All right, I want to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of coaching. I want to know, how exactly do you prepare a practice?
You know what? That's such an awesome question, and that's the part that I enjoy the most. So, Jake, what we do, Coach Greenblatt, my assistant coach. I'm not sure if you know Coach Greenblatt. He's one of
I've seen him around the high school before when I was there.
Coach Greenblatt taught 3 or 4 AP history classes at the high school at the same time, which means he had 4 preps. He's one of the most brilliant people that I've been around, and he's been with the basketball program, somewhere between 35 and 40 years with his time with George Frank and his time with me. He's just got an unbelievable basketball mind. And then I have Coach Boylan, my JV coach, who's a former college.
Mr. Boylan, I went to his camp for years.
Back to basics, baby, B2B.
Yep.
Coach Boylan's just an excellent JV basketball coach. And then he comes up with us during the playoffs, and he's an assistant coach. So, but during that season, he's focused on JV. So Coach Greenblatt, myself, and Coach Atkinson. Tom Atkinson is now my special assistant. It's Kenny's brother.
Wow.
He works with me a little bit. So Coach Greenblatt and I we get on the phone and we'll say, hey, what do we need to work on? There's something called a SWOT analysis, Jake, that I did in the business world. Okay. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So if you only practice what you're good at, you're never going to get better. So what we try to do is we try to write down our strengths. Jake, we try to isolate our weaknesses, look at some opportunities, and try to be ahead of what could be some threats for us. So I'll give you an example. If we know we're going to be playing against a team in 3 days that is going to press us full court, we really try to put extra time into our press breaks so that we can handle the other team's pressure and get the ball over half court. So that's just one example. And what we try to do, we write our practice plan down to the minute. And I'll send you one maybe one day. I'll email it to you. But we'll say, I'm making it up. We'll say 3 o'clock to 3:10, we're going to stretch. From 3:10 to 3:15, we're going to do our daily dozen drill. From 3:15 to, I'm making it up, 3:15 to 3:20, we're going to do our Kansas shooting drill. We're going to do 5-ball shooting for 5 minutes. From there, let's do some ball handling. Let's work on our passing series. Let's do our breakdown shooting. Let's play 4-on-4. Let's play 5-on-5. Okay, let's work on our press breaks. Let's do our zone offense. And we put it into mini clips, right? 5 minutes, 8 minutes, where we go really hard. We'll get water. We'll shoot free throws. And we put everything on the clock, and everything's a competition. And all of a sudden, an hour and 45, 2 hours has gone by, and you look at the clock and you say, wow, that went fast, right? So you really have to be organized. Teachers do lesson plans. Coaches do practice plans, right? Prior preparation prevents poor performance. And we try to be efficient with every minute of practice so that we feel as if we're doing more than a competition, that we're accomplishing more on every day of practice than the teams we're playing against.
Interesting. So my next question is there a coaching style that you tend to use? Do you stick to one? Do you use a couple of different ones?
Jake, that's a great question. I'm very demanding of my players. I don't apologize for that. I think really, like, true athletes, true competitors want to be coached. They want to be challenged. And the challenge for me as a coach in the new age, in the new world we live in, is how do I balance that? Because sometimes, on occasion, players can be sensitive to constructive criticism. And when you give constructive criticism to a player, you're trying to make them better. So you really care about them. If you're giving them feedback that's going to make them better, you're really doing what you're supposed to do as a coach. Sometimes players get defensive, or they feel as if you're giving them too much constructive criticism, when in reality, all you're trying to do is help them. Right? You're just trying to make them better. So it's a fine line. I always say to my players, hey, I'm going to be the first to pat you on the back when you do something right. I'm going to be the first to let you know when you don't meet expectations. And I think players like coaches who are fair and consistent. And I really haven't deviated from who I am as a person when I coach. I'm high energy. I'm enthusiastic. I'm organized. I hold players accountable to what's expected of them. And at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone who maybe doesn't appreciate that, but the majority of the true athletes do, and they thank you for it. And all the guys who played in college have thanked me for it. They say, hey, coach, when I got to college, I already knew what was expected of me. And my college coach sounds just like you did in high school. It's the biggest compliment I can get because I'm trying to get them there. I'm trying to say to them, hey, listen, if you make a mistake, don't shrug your shoulders, right? Just move on to the next play. Your body language screams, right? Have positive body language at all times, right? And Jake, remember, we used to talk about that even on Unified, right?
We did.
Have a smile on your face, have some fun, give your teammate a high five, right? Encourage your teammates, try to lift them up, don't bring them down. Don't blame your teammates for mistakes. Don't throw anyone under the bus, right? Be the first to compliment them. If someone needs help, you help them. So my style, I mean, I think it's just, my style is just carry over to who I am, right? It's just, I'm the same person. And then you're basically having a conversation with your players.
Interesting. So a follow-up to that would be, so it seems like you've been coaching for a while. I know you talked about certain challenges. You talked about how certain players are sensitive to things. Speaking of sensitivity, obviously there's a lot more sensitivity in the world today, especially with, kids that you're coaching high school kids, that age group can be a little bit sensitive. My generation, I can think myself a little more out of pocket than some other people my age, but
you're an old soul, man. You're old school. I like it.
I am old school. I was wondering, do you find it difficult to be, because like you said, you've always stuck to who you are, which by the way is great, and you've always tried to give constructive criticism where you feel necessary. Have you found that to be more difficult at all? It's because people, especially the young men that you are coaching, they can be a little more sensitive. Like, have you found it to be a little more difficult to give constructive criticism because of that, or not really?
Yes and no. I mean, the majority of our players at Northport have responded very favorably to it. And listen, it's not always criticism. A lot of it's positive reinforcement. I mean, like I said, it's a balance. I mean, these guys, they get a lot of compliments. So I don't want to stay focused on the criticism part of it. They get a lot of compliments also. It's specific feedback. You address a specific behavior or a specific event, and then you explain the why behind it, and then the players get it. And listen, the proof is in the pudding. Players want to win, right? You're a competitor. You wanted to. When you're on the golf course, you wanted to shoot a better score than the guy next to you, right?
Yep.
So if someone could give you a tip to do that, you were thirsty for that, right?
Absolutely.
So if I can give my players something that's going to give them an edge, maybe help us pick up 4 points in a game from a baseline out of bounds play, right? Once the players realize that, hey, if we're in this together, players, coaches, and we buy in and we believe in the plan and we believe in the process and we believe in the scouting report, and then we're good and we work on our game and we can start to win games, players respond favorably to coaching. And, I'm very proud of our basketball program, Jake. At Northport, we've been in the county final 3 of the last 4 years.
Wow.
When you talk about the large school teams in Suffolk County, there's 28, 29, 30, depending on the year. And we've been the top 2 the last 4 years. And we won the county 3 years ago. And we lost in overtime 2 years ago. So we were 2 inches away from being county champs if Nick Watt's shot goes in and doesn't go in and out. 2 years in a row. So, it's because we have good players who work on their game, are committed, and also we have a good coaching staff, and and the players respond to coaching, right? So we're very proud of that. And there's a basketball tradition at Northport, and we've really done a nice job with that, being one of the most. Coach Greenblatt ran the numbers. We in the last 30 years we've been to as many county Final Fours of any other team and any of the other teams in the county. The Brentwoods, the Bayshores, all the we're right there with them. We're right on par with how many Final Fours we've been to.
Wow.
Right.
So my next question is, obviously in high school and college, it's a little different than the pros, where obviously in the pros, you're able to keep players for longer because they have contract in high school and basketball. guys can, they might have another passion. Once they graduate, obviously, then they move on to other things. So obviously, you always are replacing guys. You know, in Suffolk County, there's so many young student athletes who love to play basketball. So when you're looking for new players every year, whether it's the incoming freshmen or just new players in general, what are you looking for in a player?
So Jake, let's backtrack on that question too. That's an excellent question. The building of a high school basketball program starts a lot earlier than ninth grade.
Mhm.
So, I stopped down. Listen, I talked to Coach Boylan in town, Coach Chavetta in town, the middle school coaches. I go to the middle school games or middle school practices. We start to identify players. I know it sounds crazy, but you start to identify players in fifth and sixth grade. When the kids start to come to your camp, you get to know them. So you're following their progress, and you're following their development. So all the names when they start to get to you for tryouts, right? It's not like the first time you're seeing a ninth grader. We've probably seen them since sixth or seventh grade, and then you have to factor in pipeline and position and year of graduation because you need to keep it moving. So in other words, you need to keep developing players who can play the post, or players who can rebound, or who's our next shooter, who's the next guy who can handle the ball. How can we develop them so they get minutes on the freshman team? Maybe they can help us on the varsity as a sophomore. And there's a depth chart, and there's opportunities for development. And if you develop and you do what you're supposed to do, you get opportunities to play. And it starts a lot earlier than ninth grade. And then we also try to run a system where, we have a certain type of athlete at Northport, where we try to implement a system that'll give us the best percentage chance of winning against other programs who may have a different type of athlete or a different type of program or a different style. So our style is ball movement, discipline, fundamentally sound defense, passing, screening, good possessions every time down court, controlling the tempo, executing, right? And so we try to develop that system starting from the middle school right through the ninth grade, the JV team, and then when the players get to me. We also teach those concepts at our camps and our clinics. And then we try to spread the word for some of the youth travel coaches in the area who coach. We want them coaching their own style, but we try to, I think when they come to the games and they see how we play, they're able to feed off of that.
Interesting. So every year, do you have a goal? Every year is it the same? Does it differ from year to year at all?
That's such a great question. When you're a college basketball coach, right? I think that and you're recruiting players from all across the country. You probably have certain sets of goals. For me, our goals are widespread, right? There's the number one thing that you want to do as a high school basketball coach is you want to make basketball an extension of the academic day. So you want your players learning life lessons that they'll be able to carry on so that they can get a job one day, so that they can have a slight edge on the competition when they go for a job interview, right? So you really have to keep that in perspective when you're a high school coach. And I think because Coach Greenblatt, Coach Boylan, and myself, we're all such competitive coaches. We teach that competitive spirit in our athletes, right? So that's the goal every year, right? Are we striving to be better tomorrow than we were today, right? And so you have to really keep that in mind. That has to be the number one goal. And then, of course, it's a sport and we want to win. So our goal tends to be at Northport to, at a minimum. Now we've upgraded. At a minimum, our goal is to get to the Suffolk County Final Four. At a minimum, every year, it's it's a great feeling. Not a great feeling actually, but it's an interesting feeling for us now when we walk into school the day after a loss and people are surprised. People will say, "Oh man, I heard you guys lost last night." They don't realize they're paying us the highest compliment they could pay. Because when people are surprised that you've lost, you've arrived.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So it's good. Expectations when they're high, it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Mhm.
But we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's only one team that goes home happy every year, the state champion. Everyone else loses their last game.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So I go home unhappy every year except one. The year we won the Suffolk County Championship, it was a shortened season due to COVID, so that was the last game of the year. We didn't get a chance to compete for the Long Island Championship. I think that team could have done some damage. I think they could have won the island potentially and maybe done some damage upstate. We'll never know. But guess what? We won our last game and we went home happy. So, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, can you tell me through? Is there like one or two or even three or whatever that number is of like games that were just so crazy that they just stick in your mind for whatever reason?
Sure can. Let me start with one that didn't go our way,
Okay.
and then I'll go with one that went our way.
All right.
And I think you can learn from both of these games. And these are the life lessons we talk about, right? This is the carryover to how basketball, transcends just basketball, and it becomes a way in which you can learn about yourself for life, right? So, 2 years ago, when Nick Watts was a senior, JJ Allstrand, Dylan McNaughton, Owen Zimmerman, that whole crew of guys. Emmett Radzul was a junior point guard. We had a really good team. We were really good, right? And we were in the county championship game. We had a great week of practice for Hills East. Hills East is a team that plays a certain style. We set up our practice plan back to our previous discussion to do everything we could to break Hills East pressure, right? They were a pressing, doubling, trapping team. We had music on blast in practice as loud as it could go to create a distraction for our players. We had our offense playing against 6 defenders, 7 defenders.
Wow.
We were doing everything we could to simulate pressure situations, and we were ready. And we had a great first half. We went up 7. The game got tight in the second half. And in regulation, we had a baseline out of bounds play. Nick Watts got a great look from the corner. Shot goes up. I'm standing right behind him. I'm like, oh my God, we're about to win the county at the buzzer. The ball hits the front of the rim, back of the rim, front of the rim, and pops out. And when there's a picture that's going around of the ball, and the ball is, if this is the rim, the ball is halfway down. And I can't tell you how many people have said to me since then, I don't know how that ball didn't go in. But it didn't. Now think about this. If Nick's shot, right, doesn't hit the front of the rim, it's 1 inch further. It goes through the rim because 2 basketballs fit through a rim, right? If you lay the rim on the ground, 2 balls fit in there, right? So if Nick's shot is 1 inch over that rim, we're running on the court celebrating as if we won. Well, we would have won a championship. So you would have seen this massive celebration, and we would have gone on to compete in the Long Island Championship at Hofstra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nick's ball didn't go in for whatever reason. Overtime, the game is tight. Comes down to the last minute. Couple plays don't go our way. Hills East wins, and we watch them celebrate. And now we have 15 disappointed players in a locker room trying to figure out what just happened. Mm-hmm. So what's the lesson, right? I don't know. Like, we put our best foot forward. We gave effort. We were prepared. It's sports. It just didn't go our way on that day. Yeah. And so though the guys in that locker room learned about disappointment, they learned about how sometimes things don't go your way. And what I said to those guys is, hey guys, the only thing I can say to you right now is I promise you the sun's going to come up tomorrow. And guess what? The sun came up the next day and you move on. But to this day, that loss sticks with me. There's no exaggeration to this. There are times I see it in my sleep. There are times when I'm driving and it pops in my head. It'll always be there. That sting will always be there.
Mhm.
So now let's talk about another game. Okay, I don't know if you know this. I live in Huntington now, right?
Okay.
So my son plays high school basketball for Huntington.
Mhm.
He played as a sophomore this year. Okay. So, and he got his first career points against us when we played against them at Huntington this year. So I'm coaching against my son, so it's kind of a cool
That's
story.
funny. That's funny.
But let's rewind to 2015. At that time, my son was 8 years old,
Mhm.
and he would come to the games wearing a Northport basketball T-shirt. Okay, and he would sit behind the bench. He would come to practice, come in the locker room after the game, right? So at that night, he's wearing a Northport basketball shirt. Okay, so we have a quarterfinal playoff game against Huntington. Northport is the 5 seed, Huntington's the 4 seed. So the game is at Huntington.
Mhm.
About 200 or 300 people got turned away because the gym reached maximum capacity. So there was about 200 or 300 people who didn't get to see this game. So it gets better, Jake. You ready? So the game starts at 2:00, and the light, obviously it's light out. It's 2:00. So the game goes to overtime. Okay, then it goes to a second overtime.
Wow.
Hold on. Goes to a third overtime. Keep saying wow. Then it goes to a fourth overtime.
My God.
You got to say wow every time.
Wow.
All right, it goes to a fifth overtime.
5? Are we still going?
You got to say wow.
Wow.
All right, then it goes to a sixth overtime.
Oh my God. Wow.
All right. So now in the sixth overtime, Luke, in the fourth overtime, Lucas Jarrett fouls out.
Mhm.
He had 42 points. Their best player, Kenny Charles, and Kenny McCarthy, they both fouled out. We had another guy foul out. Brendan Whalen hit a huge 3 in one of those overtimes. Lucas blocked a shot at the buzzer in another overtime. They had a shot go in and out at one of the overtimes, at the buzzer. We won, I think, like 96-88, right?
Wow.
So it's the longest game. People looked it up. I could be wrong, but unofficially, it's the longest game in Long Island basketball history.
Wow.
Okay, and we won. And to this day, when I see people, I live in Huntington, I'll see people and they'll say that was the best sporting event at any level that I've ever been to. So when we left the gym, okay, well, first of all, after the game, we took a picture of the team, and my son's in the picture with a Northport basketball T-shirt in the Huntington locker room.
Wow.
7 years ago, right? Well, now he plays in that locker room for Huntington.
That's crazy.
Okay, we went outside. There was 4 inches of snow on the ground, and it was dark out. The game started at 2 p.m. We went outside. There was 4 inches of snow, and it was dark out.
Wow.
Okay, so there it is. I mean, but what lesson did we learn from that? Never give up. Fight to the end. Give your best effort. Don't get tired. Be relentless. Be persistent. So, I don't know. Did I learn more from the Huntington win or more from the Hills East loss? I don't know. It's a toss-up. That's what sports is all about.
That's crazy. 6 overtimes. Wow. I don't even know. I don't even know if an NBA game has done that. I don't even know if a Division I game has done that. I think there was one like Notre Dame against somebody. At this point, had to be 10 years ago. Went to like
UConn, Syracuse.
UConn, Syracuse too. It was. Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 overtime or something crazy, maybe something like that. But
I think it was 6 overtimes. Can you look it up? Because I got to tell you another story. I was
Oh,
there.
fun!
You
were there.
Yep. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I want to say Jerry McNamara was on the team for Syracuse. He's now a coach with Syracuse. I think he was a guard for Syracuse at the time. It was Syracuse UConn. Look it up. In the Big East tournament, right?
Yeah, it says 2 teams combined for 222 points, 6 overtimes. Yes, the 6 overtimes.
Okay,
it was a Big East record. Yeah, and it was trying to see if I can see if it was an attorney or not.
No, it was the Big East tourney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it appears according to this article that Kemba Walker was still at UConn.
Kemba was at UConn and Jerry McNamara was at Cuse, right? Right? I don't know.
I mean,
I
let
forget.
me go. Let me go back. It says Paul Harris was playing. Yep. But no, that's Evan Devendorf. Paul Harris was
Yep.
at Syracuse. This is just a random Bleacher Report article. Stanley Robinson's the guy who's mentioned here. Andy Routens was at Syracuse. AJ Price was at UConn. Let's see. Jeff Adrian's another UConn player.
Jake, can I ask you a question?
What's that?
How'd you get into doing these podcasts? You're really good at it.
Thank you. So when I was I was a sophomore at Upper High School. I took a class called Sports Marketing with Mr. Goodwin. I think,
Mr. Goodwin, he's the best.
yeah, I know. Yeah, he coaches teams over there. I know. Yeah, great guy. And from there, like I always wanted to work in sports. I took that class. It was a lot of fun. I thought, let me go into the business side of sports. After I took that sports marketing class, I had a lot of fun. So when I went to Sacred Heart University, I committed there. I entered Sacred Heart University as a sports management major. I had no idea what I wanted to do in sports management, but all I knew was from that class. I mean, when I was younger, like elementary school and middle school, I thought I want to be a sports commentator. I would like commentate like the video game I would play.
Yeah.
I would play that. I would commentate it like even if I was losing, I would be like the other team would win on a game winner. I would like commentate that. Like, I wouldn't care if I lost, but for whatever reason, I just didn't. When I was younger, I didn't have the same drive that I have now. So I kind of veered away from that. I kind of got a little lost. And then I took that class. I was like, oh, let me do this. And then so a mandatory class for sports management majors that you take as a freshman at Sacred Heart, it's called organizational management. I would say that 3 weeks into that class, I'm sitting there and I thought, what the bleep am I doing in this class? This is not what I want to do. So then in October, remember my first semester at SHU was during the COVID pandemic, the height of the pandemic. So, meeting people and making friends didn't come as easy as it would normally. It's because it's hard you couldn't really leave your dorm without certain restrictions. You had to wear a mask.
My niece was there, right?
That's right. I think Miss Raleigh.
Cassandra?
That's right. Yeah, I think my mom was saying the other day. I think at one point, like I don't know if it's your sister's kid or whoever.
My sister.
Yes, I think at one point she's like my mom in like the mom's position. She saw your last name. She's like, oh wait, that was Jake's high school coach. So
yeah,
I think she might have messaged your sister and be like, do you know? Like I think she might have thought it was your wife at first, and then like she messaged her, like, oh no, that's my brother. And
that's so funny. Anyway, go ahead. So keep telling your story.
Yeah. So then I met a good friend of mine who's now my roommate in October. My mom and his mom actually linked on Facebook, and they had us meet, and we're roommates and very close friends to this day. One day we're out to dinner. This is like from maybe a couple weeks after we had met, middle of October of my first semester there. He mentioned to me that he was part of the sports media club at Sacred Heart. And I asked him, what is that? Oh, it's a club, and we talk about sports. I was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. So he gave me the contact info of the president at the time. President was Will Pesic. I do still keep in contact with him. Great guy. He did a great job as the president there. And I emailed him, said, hey, my name is Jake. I would like to join. He was like, sure, you can join. We have a meeting on this day. Come and join. So I went to the meeting, and we did a podcast. We did over Zoom. At that point, it was height of the pandemic, so we had to do everything over Zoom at the time. And it was so much fun. I thought, I'm actually pretty good at this. And then I realized I can do this for a career. And at that point, emailed my advisor. I said, you're great, but I have to switch advisors because I have to switch to the sports communication school. And I became a sports communications major. And then eventually, I started seeing everyone doing a podcast now. I joined the Discord. Much of them know Discord. I joined like a sports Discord, and like different people were doing podcasts. I thought that's pretty cool. So I started on this app called Covercast. I would literally just talk into my phone like this. I would talk about sports. And eventually on the app, there was the app updated to where you could record them. So I started recording them and posting them on YouTube as an audio only. And then Sacred Heart built a podcast suite, which is where I usually do the podcast, but when I'm home, I do them over Zoom because I don't have access to it. And then I started doing it there, and it's kind of gone from there. But yeah, that's how I got into this.
It's great. What now do you know, John? Do you know Chris Carlin?
Yes.
Do you know the name?
Yeah, Chris Carlin. Is he the bald guy, bigger guy who's on?
Yeah.
Was he on the Fan at one point?
Sure was.
Yeah.
So Chris Carlin went to Hobart College where I played.
Okay.
And he used to announce my college basketball games, and now look at him.
Oh wow. Yeah.
He's great. He if you look him up, he's risen in the world of sports broadcasting, and you may want to try to connect to him somehow.
That'd be great. Yeah, Chris. I used to listen to him. I know he was on the Fan at one point. I used to listen to him on the Fan. Sean. Yeah.
He did some Rutgers. He used to do Rutgers stuff too. Like I want to say he did like.
Was he ever on SNY?
I think so.
I think yeah. Because I'm a Mets fan, so I watch SNY a lot, and like they have like the pre-shows, and then SNY has all the other shows.
Who's your favorite sports broadcaster?
Probably. I have a bunch that I like.
Top three. Give me your top three.
When it comes to broadcasters, probably I'll say Al Michaels. I think might be the greatest of all time. Do
you believe in miracles? Do you believe in miracles?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yes.
All
right. He might need to retire. I think there's no football con did him in, but I think he's the greatest of all time. I would say Joe Buck. I never get a lot of hate, but I'm a big Joe Buck guy.
Okay.
And at the third spot, I'll say Jim Nantz.
Jim Nantz. So Jim Nantz, here's a good Jim Nantz story for you. Jim Nantz is the father-in-law of a Northport grad.
Really?
Steve, there's a gentleman by the name of Bueller, last name, believe it or not, who we played lacrosse with at Northport, and he married Jim Nantz's daughter.
Wow, very, very cool. I cannot imagine.
Now, can you recite what Jim Nantz's final line was during the NCAA tournament
this year?
It's something I want to say to you at the end of this. Do you know what he said? He said, "Thank you for being my friend."
That's right, because he's not doing it anymore. He's between the Masters and now he's always doing football now. That's right.
So Jake, thank you for being my friend.
Of course, Coach.
I love it. What else? All right. So listen, you chase your dreams with this, man. You're really good at it.
Thank you. And we're towards the end here, but honestly, you coached me. I did not play varsity basketball in high school. I played what's called unified basketball, which for those who don't know, it's a combination of general ed and special education student athletes. Same kind of thing. It's an organized basketball game. There's rules. Fouls are called. Teams compete against each other. If you win, you go on to like the playoffs, and there's counties and stuff. Just like regular varsity, just not quite as competitive, but still pretty competitive. I'm competitive at everything. I'm actually curious. Why did you decide to coach that team? Like, when did the athletic director at the time, I believe, when I was a freshman, was Mr. Klomusko, and now then it became Mr. D'Antuono. I don't know if he's still there. Like, what made you take that job? So,
at the time, by the way, it started a year before the program started. They said, "Hey, they're developing something called unified basketball. Here's what it's going to be. Are you interested in helping the district get it going?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to do it." And I really didn't know what it was going to be, what it wasn't going to be, I didn't know how I would feel. I didn't know if I was qualified. There was so many variables to this where I just took a leap of faith and said, "Hey, you know what? This is my chance to give back, right? To give back, to do something special, do something unique." And so I said to Mr. Klomusko, "Yeah, I'd love to help out." So the first year I did it by myself as a coach. I didn't have assistants, and then obviously there were some aides that helped out,
Mhm.
and then each year it grew,
Oh
and we
yeah.
grew it. And you're a part of that. I mean, that's why we always, I don't know if you know this, but every time you guys come back, we try to announce, hey, look, Jake
Yep.
Cardinal. We make a point of welcoming the alums back because it is a family. Uh, the program has grown. I think we had like 24 players on the team this year. I mean, you can only play
Wow.
5 at a time. We can only play 5 at a time. We have 24. But listen, it's a beautiful sport and it's unified basketball in that you see teamwork at its best, right? And you see unselfishness and selflessness, and and you see enthusiasm, right? And energy, and effort. It's athletes competing and learning and growing, and there's definitely challenges with it, right? You know this, Jake, right? Every player on Unified is different, and different not in a bad way, but just different in terms of how they think, how they operate, what challenges they may have, and I'll say this: there's two things that have made me a better coach for my varsity basketball team. One being a father, and two coaching Unified basketball.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's so rewarding, and when you see the smiles on the faces of someone who maybe hasn't scored a basket, right? We had a player who just for Unified, their shot just wouldn't go down. They just had bad luck. They missed a lot of shots, and the look on their face when they scored their first basket, it's priceless. I mean, it's great. And listen, I'll tell you this. Coach Greenblatt will tell you this. I'm not just saying this because we're on the podcast together. I mean, I've had a lot of great moments with Unified basketball, but none greater than the Jake Cardinal shot from the corner against Amityville to win the game. Okay. All right. So you can pay me the money later, Jake. I made you look good on the podcast. But for those that don't know, Jake Cardinal banged a 3-pointer from the corner against Amityville to give us a huge win at home. And this guy right here could shoot the basketball out. The lefty, really clean, Chris Mullen looking stroke. Jake can play. Jake's a baller.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I kind of like you and I are similar. Like when Mr. Colosco came to you and said, "Can you help us get this off the ground?" and you didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know either. I heard about it. Are you familiar with Miss Lee Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's I call her my school mom. She helped. She taught me pretty much in every subject in high school, and she was very helpful. I still keep in touch with her. She brought up to me they're doing a unified basketball, and I was like, I'm like, what do you mean? And then she told me what it was about, and I was like, I don't know. Like, are you familiar with Eaton's Neck basketball?
Of course, Eaton's Neck it's a staple of Northport basketball.
Yeah.
Mr. Schmidt does a great job.
Yeah, I played that for like a couple of years in middle school. I wasn't that great. I was okay. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And I stopped until like 7th grade, so I only played 2 or 3 years. So I hadn't really played competitive basketball in like two years. I was like, I don't know. And then so I go home. I told my mom about it. She's like, how about this? Go to the introductory meeting and just see. And if you don't like it, you never have to worry about it again. But you never know. And I go to the meeting, and Mr. Klomasko was explaining, and then you were there. You introduced yourself, and he talked a little bit about it. And then I saw, and because I was in Buddy Club and Project Tolerance with Miss Giglio, so like I knew actually like a lot of the kids were on the team already because I was in the club with them. Those are two folks for people who don't know. They work with special education students, and we all have a good time. So I actually knew some of them. So I was like, all right, I'm actually playing with a bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Klomusko, he asked me and a few other student athletes who were thinking about joining the team to go to like not a conference, but like a little like event at, I don't even remember. It was just 9th grade, so long ago. At another high school.
Walt Whitman High School.
But yeah, that was it. And it was so much fun. I went with what was her name? Oh, nicest lady. she does the cheer team, I think, maybe. The gym
Uh,
teacher.
Miss Lolota.
Yes, Miss Alota, nicest lady in the world. And then,
Yep.
and then I think she was the representative, or I might be thinking of something totally different. I actually think Mr. Klamuska was there as well. But yeah, I was sold, and so that's how I got started. I'm glad I did. And like you said, like you had 24 kids on the team. That makes me smile because I think my first year, I think there was only 10 kids. I remember. Like
Maybe 10 or 11. I don't know.
yeah, like I remember I played so much as a freshman. I remember I would play the whole first quarter, and you'd be like, "Jake, you're in again." I was like, "Oh." I mean, I wasn't mad by any means. I try to be as comfortable as I can, but I was just so surprised that I was playing so much. But you only got 11
Yeah.
guys. Guys got to play a lot of minutes, and then
What was your favorite part of playing unified basketball?
it was just I didn't have a ton of friends growing up. Socially growing up, I had some issues. So just being able to be part of a team, honestly, it was just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun out there. I'm sure you remember me in practice being very loud and just very energetic. I was just having so much fun. Honestly, that first year, we pretty lost every game by 30 points, but I didn't care, which is not like me. I'm as competitive as they come, but I was just having so much fun. And even like in the years after that, my sophomore year and junior year didn't get to play the senior year because of the COVID, but the other twos I played, I was very happy that we were able to have the success we did. I believe
Yeah.
we were able to win 5 games. My second year, we came in second place, and we were undefeated until the regular season. My last year there, that was a great team, excellent team. But like even when we lost, a little disappointed, but I was more content if it than I would have been maybe.
You played with Garrett, Rose Bars, and Brian
I
McLeod,
did,
right?
I did, yeah.
They were great. They were great.
They were great. They were great. They were the kind of kids that like I think could have played on your varsity team. I think like skill level wise.
Yeah, they were very good. They did play with us for a while. They were
Yeah.
both right there. So I'm trying to think what else. And listen, just real quickly, I just want to say now that the program's rocking with 24 people, Coach Riley, Cassie Riley, and Coach McPherson, Casey McPherson, have really, I mean, they're excellent at what they do.
Oh yeah.
And without them, I couldn't do it. They make the program go, and they do a lot of things behind the scenes. And I think it's very important that they get the recognition for unified. And now they're doing other sports, unified bowling, and
I've seen that on social media. That looks like a lot of fun.
It's great. So what else, Jake?
Before we wrap up, actually, my last question is, this is a question that I've actually been meaning to ask you for probably about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Prior to me hitting that shot against Amityville, whatever play you set up, I don't even know if it was a play, whatever you call it, you set me to the corner before the play started. I remember on the court, it was Garrett Rose brought up the court. Brian was out there. I believe Steven was out there. And me, it was either Kyle Faltings or Miles. It was one of those two. I want to know, when you set me to the corner, why did you think I was going to get the ball? Was the plan for Garrett to take it to the basket? What was the plan with that?
So here's the deal. Circle of trust. I thought you were I thought you were our best shooter on the team. And in my experience, late in the game, teams don't want to give up a layup, so they help off of the corner. So if they don't help off of the corner, you take the layup. But it just seems like everyone protects the basket late in the game.
Yeah. And
I knew that it's about putting people in the right spots to succeed, right? And you were in the right spot to succeed, right?
Yeah.
And listen, and credit to you, you hit the shot. Right? A good percentage from 3-point range is 33.3%, right? Because if you hit 3 out of 9 shots, how many points is it from 3? 9.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if you hit 6 out, I'm sorry, if you let's do it another way. If you hit 4 out of 12 threes, how many points is it?
12.
If you hit 6 out of 12 twos, how many points is it?
12.
50% from 2, 33.3% from 3. So you hit the shot. You banged it. Derek Jeter was a 300 hitter, right? Means he got a hit 1 out of every 3 times.
3 out of 10, yeah.
And he had his walk-off to end his career.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of like your version of that, right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's crazy because so I remember I'm in the corner and I see Garrett bring up the ball, and Garrett he was.
Do you have a video? Do you have a video of this?
I do have the video.
Put it up.
See if I can even find it.
Can you share that on the screen?
I wonder if I can. I would have to.
How cool would that be? Because I haven't seen it in years. I would love to see that somehow.
Yeah,
I don't want to put
it popped up. My mom, when it pops up on my oh wait, is this it? Yeah, this I found it because for that reason, I guess I'm like the 1 year because my mom posted on Facebook. So
how cool? If you listen, I don't want to put pressure on you. If you could share it on the screen, that would be amazing. If you can't, no big deal.
It's in my save. I wonder if I can. Either way, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find a way to. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can send it to myself.
Yeah. Don't go crazy with it.
Because it's on my Facebook. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to do it, but
Don't worry about it.
I'll definitely send it to you. But to take you through it, so Garrett, when you sent me in the corner, I didn't really. I thought a couple of things. I thought one, I'm getting the ball. So if you look, my hands were actually ready.
Wait, hold on. All great shooters always have their hands ready.
Yes, absolutely.
We call it shot ready. You were shot ready, my man.
Yeah, so because just in case you either the goal was to get me the ball, that's why you sent me there, or you sent me there as a decoy, oh, that's their shooters and get the ball, and then it kind of maybe you did maybe try to open up the floor, maybe try to spread the floor out, so maybe it would dribble double team away from Garrett, and Garrett was a strong kid, and he was really good at taking it to the hole, so. So I thought it was one of two things. So that's why I had my hands ready, but I did not think I was getting the ball. And then so Garrett's driving in. I believe they doubled him. I was wide open, by the way, because they put at least 2, if not 3 guys on Garrett. I think they thought he was going for a layup, like you said. Guys like to protect the rim late in the game. They don't want to give up a layup. And he looks at me. He makes a great pass. The pass is really underrated to me.
He threw a strike.
And when the ball hit my hands, I literally jerked. I was like, oh my God, he's giving me the ball. And honestly, it's not literally just instinct as a shooter. When you get the ball and you're open, you shoot. It was just instinct. I was really running on autopilot. I didn't even think about, should I shoot it? Am I behind the 3-point line? Is there somebody else open? Should I pass it? What's the score? How much time is left? There's only 20 seconds left, but as far as I knew, as far as I'm the whole quarter left, I didn't know what was going on at that point.
Yeah, your basketball instincts took over.
And then I shot it, and then I'm not sure if you saw if you watched the video, I start kind of drifting down the court because halfway I thought this is the most perfect basketball shot I've ever shot. That is straight in, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Jake. Thanks so much for having me on.
Of course, Coach. That was awesome. I'm so glad to have you on. I've had a lot of coaches in my, I guess, athletic career, from whatever it was my dad for baseball. I had this Coach Bob my first year playing baseball. Eaton's Neck, I had 2 different coaches. I had for golf, I had Mr. Waters. I also had Mr. Sundberg, who was junior varsity coach. I heard he just retired, which I think is crazy, by the way. Did not think he was at the point yet, but shout out to Mr. Stumberg. And of course I had you, and no one made a bigger impact on me than you with all my coaches. So thank you for that. And thank you again, Coach, for doing this. And that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you for being my friend.
Thank you.